Hey guys, it's Holly here and I'm with the lovely Lauren Simpson. Lauren is Australian. She is the current reigning WBFF World Bikini Champion. She is also an online coach and is basically the fitness female in my opinion. So thank you for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
Obviously those of you that are following along on my channel, you know who I am, but perhaps you're following along from Lauren's channel and you don't know anything about me. My background is in dietetics. So I have a Bachelor's of Food Science and Nutrition, which I completed in Australia. I also have a master's degree in dietetics, and I'm also a coach and try to advocate, I suppose, the scientific information that comes through and relay it to the general population in a nice, easy to understand format. So,
yes.
Yeah. What are we going to talk about today,
So
Lauren?
today we are going to go over all things pros and cons of both meal plans and flexible dieting. So
Yeah.
going to be an interesting one today for you guys.
To start off, I think what we wanted to kind of talk about are what actually makes a meal plan or flexible dieting successful in the first place. So thinking about the hierarchy of things that we need to actually consider to make a successful diet plan, I have 6 dot points for you today that kind of need to be considered to make sure that you're planning for success. So the first consideration, I guess, when you're thinking about setting up for a diet, regardless of whether you do a meal plan or flexible dieting, is to make sure that your calorie intakes are set accurately. The best way that I like to determine calories are to use one of the equations that are available online. So personally, when I'm coaching, I like to use the Mueller equation, but we can also use like your own tracking to actually determine your maintenance calories. So Lauren, do you to work out what your maintenance calories are, how would you recommend or encourage your viewers to determine what their maintenance calories are?
I think just it's important to so if you're going to do that, to log your food so that you know exactly what you've been eating, so then and consistently weigh yourself. So if you're both looking at those measurables, so logging your food for a period of time, everything that you're eating, so that you know what you're eating, and also keeping track of your weight, so you're able to see any fluctuations if your weight isn't moving, you know, obviously that you're on point with where you should be at.
Exactly. So I think a really good recommendation if you want to determine what your maintenance calories are is to track, as Lauren said, and weigh yourself every day for about 2 weeks. Monitor your weight, and basically you can say that if your weight average, so you take the combined number of weigh-ins from every day, work out what your average weight is, and if you can see that your weight has kind of held steady across that period of time, well then that's probably around your maintenance calories. But if it's above or you've gained weight, well then the calories are probably above your maintenance. Similarly said, if they're lower, then you're probably, or you've lost weight, then you're probably in a deficit. So that's one way that you can certainly assess where your maintenance is. So the amount of calories that holds your weight steady. So if you're setting up a diet, we need to either create a calorie deficit, or we can also create a lower energy balance by doing more exercise. So that's the first point, I think, to consider when we're looking at the overall scheme of things. So accurate calories. The next thing, do you know what the number 2 is?
Protein.
Protein, yes, exactly. So protein targets are really important. Now, the Dietetics Association of America and the Dietetics Association of Australia have kind of regulations that we look at, or recommendations for minimums. So to not be, the guidelines, they basically tell you what's the minimum amount of protein that you should consume so that you aren't wasting away and you're not malnourished. But there is a big difference between minimizing malnutrition versus maximizing or optimizing our lean body mass. So those recommendations that we see are quite different amongst the general population, and what somebody that's in, you know, a sport like what Lauren and I compete in bodybuilding or fitness bikini competitors, those recommendations are quite different. So the general rule of thumb for protein targets is around 2.2 3 to 2.9 grams of protein per kilogram of lean body mass, not your total weight. We use lean body mass because it is a far better indicator of our metabolism or our metabolic rate and our protein needs. Okay, so point number 3 is setting your carbohydrates and your fat macronutrients. So there's a lot of talk about, carbohydrates are really bad. We shouldn't eat carbs. Or fats are really bad as well because it helps us to gain weight. It's not the case. It comes back to calories and our energy balance. So when you're considering a diet, again, whether you're setting up a meal plan or whether you're flexible dieting, I think the best thing to do is consider what your personal preferences are. So if you're somebody that really enjoys some sweets, it's probably not a great idea to have really low carbohydrate intakes because it's going to be super difficult for you to adhere to. But I think, Lauren, you're somebody that really likes savoury foods. You're not a big sweet tooth.
Yeah, for me, I don't necessarily need to have like a high carb diet. I feel better probably on like a moderate to low carb diet.
Yes.
And that's just personal preference for me. So I do like to have my fats probably a little bit higher.
Yeah, so there you go. So that's going to be super individual depending on the person. So make sure if you try a certain range of macronutrients, so carbohydrates and fats, and you're finding it's really difficult to stick to, work out why that is. Maybe it's still too low in carbs for you. Maybe you love carbohydrate containing foods, rice, pasta, breads. Take that up higher and reduce your fats a little bit if you so choose. So it's going to be really independent. The next point to consider is, and so number 4 is training. Having a really good, solid, structured training program. And now I know, Lauren, you have workouts on your website.
Yeah.
So talk us through the training programs, I guess, and the things that you can offer to the listeners that might help with this.
Yeah, so it's really important to have a structured training program so that I guess you're walking into the gym, you have set purpose, you're not just, and you have intent with your training. So you're going in there, you've got a set goal in mind, and you're not just doing any exercise just for the sake of it. Everything that you should be doing does come back to having purpose. So I coach girls and have them on training programs, and no matter what the goal is, sort of like a lot of the time, like we're coaching on like getting stronger in the gym, progressing with certain lifts and that kind of thing. So I think, it's important to really have purpose with your training so that you can also improve, so that you know that you are actually progressing. So you're doing an exercise, and what's the next stage of this? What's the next step? How can I continue to get better? Because at the end of the day, if you're not challenging yourself with your training, you're not getting better.
Yeah,
you're just going through the motions.
It blows my mind the number of people that don't actually track their weights or their sets and reps, and there's no consistency from week to week. So we know that to see progression, you need to make sure that your volumes are over time becoming higher and higher. So if you're just going into the gym and you don't have a nice structured program, and you're not taking the weights, and you have no idea what your volume is, you're probably going to find that you're going to spin your wheels and you're not going to make a lot of progress. Some people do the same programs for years and years and years. They're like, I'm not seeing any improvements.
Or it's the same thing if you're either doing the same program over and over, or you're not doing any program, you're just doing any exercise.
Whatever you want.
And then wondering why you're not seeing any results.
Exactly. So point number 4 is definitely having a structured training program. The final 2 points are the final 2 points for a reason. They're not as important. Number 5 would be micronutrient intakes. Flexible dieting gets a lot of slack because, it sounds like, or the IIFYM phase or notion is that you can just have whatever you want and you can achieve weight loss. Micronutrients are still super important. They have a lot of regulatory roles and functional purpose in our body to make sure that we are operating in an optimal fashion. So micronutrients is still something to consider. So make sure that you're eating all of the food groups. So that includes things like protein, breads, grains and cereals, nuts and seeds, legumes, fruit, veggies, and dairy. So they're all the foods that you should be trying to consume over the course of a week or 2 weeks. You might not get all of those things in every single day, but over the period of 2 or 3 weeks, you should be trying to get a good variety of that to make sure that you are hitting your micronutrient intakes. The final point, number 6, is supplements. And Lauren, do you want to give your supplement company a bit of a plug?
So I use EHP Lab supplements.
Which are very good, by the way.
Yes, but again, supplements, they're at least of priority on the hierarchy, I guess, because at the end of the day, they are just that. They are designed to supplement a good diet and a good training protocol.
Exactly.
So at the end of the day, if you're not already on point with your diet and your training, you're not following those fundamental basics around that, supplements are not magic pills, they're not quick fixes, and they're certainly not something that you need to put up top of priority in order to get the results that you want. So
exactly, there are no quick fixes. Stop trying to take shortcuts. Now we're probably going to step into a little bit of the information about meal plans and flexible dieting specifically. So there are a lot of people that are still providing meal plans. I still offer meal plans in some of my coaching programs. So should we talk about some of the positives of having a meal plan if you so decide to do that?
Yeah, so I'm someone who does come from a bit of a meal plan background. I've only pretty recently transitioned over to flexible dieting. So I guess, and for a lot of my clients as well, they do follow meal plans, as you said, with yours as well. People still choose to follow meal plans. I guess one of the main reasons would be for ease of, say, like a lot of busy mums, busy workers out there, knowing exactly what to eat, when to eat, the quantities is far easier than going out and having to put a lot of effort and a lot of thought into tracking the actual food and knowing and working out all of that. So I think just for ease, food waste. So a lot of the time when you just know that you've cooked up your big batch of food and then you've portioned it out into your meals for the week, you know that that's ready there to go. Again, like time, it's easy just to meal prep all your meals for the week rather than actually having to put much thought into, all right, this day I'm going to do this.
I think it also gives you a lot of consistency, because even if, let's say you might have messed up and got a random meal plan somewhere, right? And maybe the calories and the proteins weren't perfect for you as an individual, even if you are following that meal plan, at least you are being consistent, okay? And consistency goes such a long way when it comes to achieving your overall goals. So that's another really important thing, I think, and a positive of having a meal plan. Lauren touched on food waste. It can also be a really money-saving method too, because if you're following a structured meal plan, you're probably not going to be following a plan that tells you to eat out every day, or you know, you've got things that are kind of purchased in your weekly grocery shop, and you're making foods, and you're probably not buying a lot of things for extra waste. So therefore, hopefully keeping a bit of that money in your pocket as well. So that is one of the benefits. Some of the downfalls, however, of a meal plan, or just a once-off meal plan, are its inability to accommodate a changing or an adapting metabolism. I talk about this a lot on my YouTube channel. If you're interested, you can go and check that out. But what can happen is that as we undertake a diet, our metabolism starts to adapt, and we no longer burn the same amount of calories per day because our body is trying to conserve energy. It's a survival mechanism. It's a phenomenal evolutionary phenomenon that takes place to help us so we don't die. But nowadays, we're no longer in a food shortage. We have plenty and abundance of food available to us. So, those evolutionary mechanisms that our body are designed to do are no longer really going to benefit us. So sadly, when we diet, as our calories come down, that initial meal plan that you once purchased may no longer work for you. You might find that you follow it for a couple of weeks, and then all of a sudden you hit a plateau, and that's when you need a new meal plan that is lower caloric value to help you continue making progress. So meal plans have a lot of positives. I still use them for clients, for busy people. I think some of the most meal plan that will work the best for people that are really busy and live a really rigid, structured lifestyle and perhaps just like that consistency. They can work really well for those people. But for the reasons mentioned with metabolic adaptation, you do have to make sure that you are constantly changing that meal plan so that it's still keeping you in your calorie deficit, particularly if you were trying to lose weight.
Okay, so to flexible dieting, we'll talk about the pros there. So both me and Holly are flexible diet. So basically that means that we are aware of our protein, fat, and carb intake. We track everything that we eat, everything. And so that we know what our total calories are, and we're hitting them every single day. We look at them daily or weekly. So with flexible dieting, some of the pros, as I said, I am pretty new to flexible dieting, and for me to transition out of a meal plan, it's really provided me with a lot more flexibility in what I do. I travel a lot, I eat out a lot, and it's enabled me to still make sure that I'm on track and still be moving forward to my goals, but with flexibility, not necessarily having to eat every meal at home and sticking to such a structured meal plan. I think it's important for people out there who might be traveling or might not be able to eat at home or eat prepared meals all the time, that you can still
even for people that are on the road for their job, maybe they're traveling from town to town or whatever it is. Imagine if you had a structured meal plan and it required you to eat like a hot meal at your lunchtime or something that needed refrigerating, and maybe you're in your car traveling, or I don't know, going on the train, flying, and you can't really take that with you. Then what? So the option of having flexible dieting enables you to grab something on the go. You're looking at the macronutrient profile of those foods, or you're estimating what you're eating, and now you're still hitting the same target that your meal plan is providing, but you can do it on the fly. So it's so much more enjoyable in that sense, that you don't have to stick to this structured plan.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Another point would be that it really improved my knowledge around food, and knowing exactly what I was consuming, which at first is pretty mind-blowing when you learn to know like how much carbs are in something, how much fats, how much protein, or how, if you're just going by the fly, like how little protein a lot of people actually consume. So I think it's been a really good, and for everyone out there, it's a really good learning tool initially, and I would highly recommend for everyone to, once in their life,
give it a
track their intake, because you will learn so much about nutrient profiles of foods that you're eating and how much you can actually eat. I think a lot of people out there would be under eating, and
I think it also, a lot of foods have been demonized over the years because there wasn't really talk of flexible dieting. So instead it was, as we mentioned before, carbohydrates are bad, or fats are going to make you fat, or carbs make you fat, whatever it is. It kind of takes away a lot of the foods that were once demonized, and they no longer become like this hierarchy food, because now that you have a target to follow for your calories, and obviously that comes from proteins, carbohydrates, and fats, you can then take a look at some of those foods that you perhaps really enjoy, like maybe it's a donut or ice cream or candy, lollies, and you can see what a serving contains, and now you can reintroduce that back into your diet, and you can do that with ease. You can look at it and go, I've still got 100 grams of carbohydrate left for the day. Excellent. And I had something that I really, really enjoy. So it takes away that negativity that is placed on a lot of foods. And I think it also has helped a lot of people kind of come out of really disordered eating, or having a really bad relationship with foods, because now they can start to enjoy this wider variety of options, which is excellent. So I think that probably wraps this one up. I hope that you guys have learned something from this. I know I'm going to be sticking to flexible dieting for a lot longer. And obviously the other benefit, the longer that you do this and the more knowledge you accumulate from having an understanding of what's in foods, the pressures of having to track everything in your phone all the time kind of just go away, because now you're so experienced at it, you know what you're eating, and you can just kind of do a quick math in your mind as you go, oh yep, I've had this amount per day. So it also becomes a very seamless way of eating, and almost intuitive in some ways, the longer that you do it. So again, as Lauren said, if you haven't tried flexible dieting, we would recommend you give it a go, or perhaps you're on the other foot. Maybe you are the rigid person who enjoys structure and consistency, and you enjoy just being told what you should eat to get through the day without any stress or problems. Thanks for watching.
Thanks guys.
We'll see you next time.